Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here at Think Tech Talks on a given Wednesday, and you know what that means. Wednesday is Energy Day in Hawaii, the state of clean energy. And we're always exploring here at Think Tech on behalf of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and HECO, Hawaiian Electric Companies, and also DBED. We're always exploring exactly what's going on in clean energy, and we'd like to find out things maybe that the public doesn't exactly know about. And tonight we're exploring, what is it, small wind in Hawaii. Small wind, there's lots of considerations. And my guest and co-host is Warren Bollmeyer of the Hawaii Renewable Energy Alliance. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir, you did.
How about that? You're probably surprised.
First time.
Yeah, first time. We're working up to it, Warren.
Right.
Warren's such a nice man, and we're going to have a good time with him.
I'll take that as a compliment.
We were going to talk to Trevor Atkinson with Northern Power Systems, but we can't reach him on Skype, so it's Warren and me. Okay. If you're listening, Trevor, call in. 780-9254. Okay, and Rob DeVertura. DeVertura.
Almost, yeah. Yeah, that's me.
I'm working on that.
That's close.
If I could get the Hawaii Renewable Energy Alliance right, next thing is you.
Is my name next on the list? I appreciate that.
And we have the Negawatt moment with Rob, and I can hardly wait because I know that these guys think of things that no one else could think of. They got to go through this special thinking training to be associated with Hawaii Energy.
Yeah, we're laying awake at 3 a.m. each morning to think about other energy-saving ways for the public.
That.
Right? Oh, did you say that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And P.S. Hawaii Energy is also one of our sponsors. So, okay, Hawaii Energy. Rob, what did you come up with at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Okay, for those who don't know, we come on about every other week, and Hawaii Energy.
Why do you say every other week? I thought it was every week.
We usually do every other week now. We're around there. Yeah. Yeah. So for those that don't know, we are a energy conservation efficiency program, and we serve the islands of Hawaii Island, Lanai, Maui, Molokai, and right here on Oahu, and provide a number of different rebates and incentives to help offset the cost of energy efficient equipment. So today we're going to talk about solar water heating. And the importance of that, heating water actually requires the most electricity of the average four-person household. It's about 40% of all your electricity goes to heat water. And so basically what I want to talk about is a rebate that we have. We have this ongoing. It's a $1,000 rebate for buying a solar water heater. And then in addition to that, there are different state and federal tax credits that you can get. So when you factor that in addition to the rebate, you can get it for about $2,000 for the overall system. And in terms of the savings, it's about $600 to $700 a year in electricity cost that you can save through a solar water heater. And then additionally, for other people who might be listening, maybe they already have a solar water heater, Hawaii Energy has another rebate. It's called a tune-up rebate, and it's $150, and it's pretty simple. Basically, you need to check about every 3 to 5 years to make sure it's working properly. You want to maximize the life of your investment of the solar water heater. They check for different things like leaks, corrosion, pump failure. And so we have that now going until May 31st. And the typical maintenance costs about $300 to $500. So you can get that cost down to about half the cost when you factor in the rebate. So those are the two big things I wanted to talk today. I know it's Earth Week. Yesterday was Earth Day, and we encourage everyone to become more energy efficient.
Let's take a moment to talk about Hawaii Energy in general. This is only one example of what you do.
Right.
And you're charged with, it's a serious charge because It used to be held in the belly of Hawaiian Electric and then it was split off.
Right.
So now you guys are out there trying to increase energy efficiency, which means increase the negawatts.
Yeah, right.
So we don't use energy. That's the idea.
So we want to use as much. Yeah, so the first thing that we preach is conservation first. So find ways that you can reduce simple things that don't cost anything, whether it's taking a shorter shower or turning off the lights, and then doing some more low-cost ways, changing from an incandescent to a CFL. We have a number of rebates there. They're actually already factored into the cost. And then other things, once you do that, then you can go up to energy-efficient appliances, so like Energy Star appliances for like a refrigerator. We have a trade-up rebate for $150. We also have a bounty program where you exchange the extra working refrigerator, that's $50. And then we also have rebates for things like fans, as well as washing machines. So a number of different rebates for residents and businesses together.
Is it working? What I mean is if you have data that suggests that your efforts are substantially reducing, the use of energy in Hawaii, do you have, can you say, I don't know if there's a way to say this, maybe you can't say it, can you say how much reduction you're able to achieve with your various programs?
That I'm not sure how much electricity it saves. I know it's a lot. It's probably buried somewhere in our annual report. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I know it's a significant amount each and every year. Yeah.
And it's important. And why should Joe Dokes care about this? Not for his own solar heater, but for the community. Why should he care?
Well, personally, I think most people care just because it saves them a lot of money, and they think maybe, well, my electricity bills are high, I can't do a whole lot, but there is, and that's exactly what we talk about in terms of conservation and efficiency. There are things that you can do within your own power to reduce your electric bill, and anybody who wants to learn more, they can visit our website, hawaiienergy.com. There are a number of different rebates on there, and even just tips. We also offer education for the public, so multiple ways to reduce your overall electricity usage.
Yeah. So again, how can I get this benefit that you thought up at 3 in the morning about solar water heaters? How do I actually? What foot do I put out first in order to get the benefit?
Sure. So I would say first visit our website, hawaiienergy.com, and then /solar water. And that's specific to solar water heating, or you can give us a call. Residential program is 537-5577.
Okay, we should all do this. We should think about this a lot because this is going to save enormous amounts of electricity without spending a whole lot.
Absolutely.
And if we don't change our lifestyle voluntarily, we'll wind up changing our lifestyle involuntarily, and that won't be fun at all. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate it.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Aloha.
But if you should be of a mind next week to come back, feel free.
Okay.
Our door is always open here at ThinkTech.
We always appreciate the invite.
Okay, Warren, it's you and me, baby. Let's take a break. Now it's back to Warren and me. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after this short break to continue with our discussion of small wind in Hawaii.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rafi. Every week, I'm right here at ThinkTech Hawaii, 3 p.m. on Mondays. My show is Boards' Bio Briefings. What do we do here? Well, we watch sperm swim. We see if they catch anybody. We check out the latest biosimilars. You know, the kind that, what was his name? The guy with the bicycle? I guess we forgot his name, but he was taking EPO and other human growth factors. We'll be talking about human growth factors. You want to know where to get some? Maybe I'll tell. Anyway, you can catch me, as I said, every week right here, Monday, 3 p.m., ThinkTech Hawaii, Dr. Rafi. You can also find me on Twitter, BioInfoMedical. Or you can catch me on Facebook, Dr. Rafael Boritzer. I'll be happy to converse with you. Aloha.
I'm Jay Fidel. That's Sharon Moriwaki of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum. And every Wednesday we have Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. We've been doing it for some time now, and we have some fantastic guests on there, unbelievable guests who give us insight into what is going on in a very complex, sometimes very confusing, sometimes very disappointing area of progress in the state. So we love doing this. We love meeting them. We love talking to them. We love having their ideas out on the table. So maybe, just maybe, we can all make some sense of what's going on. Sharon, what do you think?
I think that's absolutely correct. We enjoy ourselves meeting with all these people and hearing about the energy and the state of clean energy, and hopefully we advance clean energy for the state. So it's terrific. Join us.
Okay, it's every Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday is Energy Day. Every Wednesday, 4 to 5 p.m. Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, here on ThinkTech Hawaii. We'll see you there.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rafi. Every week, I'm right here at ThinkTech Hawaii, 3 p.m. on Mondays. My show is Boards' Bio Briefings. What do we do here? Well, we watch sperm swim, we see if they catch anybody, we check out the latest biosimilars, you know, the kind that, what was his name, the guy with the bicycle? I guess we forgot his name, but he was taking EPO and other human growth factors. We'll be talking about human growth factors. You want to know where to get some? Maybe I'll tell. Anyway, you can catch me, as I said, every week right here, Monday, 3 p.m., ThinkTech Hawaii, Dr. Rafi. You can also find me on Twitter, BioInfo Medical. Or you can catch me on Facebook, Dr. Rafael Boritzer. I'll be happy to converse with you.
Okay, we're back. We're live. I'm Jay Fidel. Here we are on ThinkTech Talks. And we're talking on Wednesday, of course, about Hawaii, the state of clean energy. And we have in the studio here in downtown Honolulu, in the core of downtown Honolulu, in Pioneer Plaza, we have Warren Bohlmeier, who is the founder and chief executive of the Hawaii Renewable Energy Alliance. And this is, you'll see how important this is in a minute. And we have, by Skype audio, we have Trevor Atkinson, who was in Stowe, Vermont, where the ski slopes just closed 3 days ago. So we're trying to figure out why he's still there. Do you live there, actually, Trevor?
Yes, I live here all year round.
Oh, that explains it. And that's probably because you like to ski, and that way you can have as much skiing as possible, no?
Absolutely. I snowboard now.
Okay, snowboard, pardon me. The other generation.
He could possibly like other things Vermont has to offer, like maple syrup.
Maple syrup, okay. If you had to choose between the maple syrup and the skiing, take the skiing. Okay, anyway, so Trevor, you're with Northern Power Systems. What is that?
Northern Power Systems, we are a manufacturer of a 100 kilowatt, a 60 kilowatt, and a 2 megawatt wind turbine. We also do design for microgrids, all kinds of different advanced technologies, integrating various new storage technologies, and renewable energy.
So is Northern Power Systems an American company? I have to ask these days. I'm never sure.
Yes, we are.
Good. That's a good thing. Okay, and so the subject at hand is small wind in Hawaii, and I wanted to get a handle through you on exactly how small wind is doing. Now, in the way of preface, you know, and Warren will back me up on this, we're focusing on PV here. I mean, PV is like everywhere. It's ubiquitous. It's like, I don't know, what is it, 10%, 15% of the residences have it now?
Supposedly 10%.
And it generates an enormous amount of
That's awesome.
renewable energy, and so much so that the grid can't hardly handle it anymore. And we have issues about it. Okay, and then we have, you know, a little geothermal in the Big Island, and we have, I guess we have wind, but it's in big installations, not little installations.
About 200 megawatts.
200 in total, which is, with the growth of wind, Warren will agree, has been less than anticipated. You know, if you looked at Hawaii 5 years ago, you would have said wind is king. And all of a sudden, the PV guys have, you know, surpassed that by legions. And so it's changed. It's sort of flipped from where wind was, you know, the leader to now PV is the, you know, complete leader, and wind is not growing as quickly. And wind on residential, you know, in homes is really not happening. And that's why I wanted to check in with you. I wanted to see what the latest products were on small wind. I wanted to see, how the rest of the country is doing on small wind. I wanted to see if there are, for example, benefits that small wind has that PV may not have. I want to see where small wind is, in the array of possibilities. Can you comment on all of that?
Gosh, that's a lot of comment.
Well, I'll
really.
break it down if you want. How is small wind doing in the country? How is what's the name of the company?
Northern Power.
System.
Northern Power Systems doing in terms of marketing small wind devices?
Well, we're doing fantastic right now, purely to the European market, by the way. But my company, we tailor towards what we call the top end of small wind. But the residential clients, they typically tend to utilize machines that are in the 5 to 20 kilowatt range, and I can't really speak too accurately about that size product in the industry right now. I do know as a whole that the wind has been doing very well. I mean, there's been a little dip here for the last couple of years because of the economy, but in general, wind has been growing very, very quickly and much stronger than it had in previous years.
Yeah, I could comment a little bit. By the way, I started in small wind in March of 1977, and I was at what's now NREL, and we had a number of projects to help design new small wind turbines. And one of them was with a company called North Wind Power Company. It was a precursor to Northern Power.
Mm-hmm.
So they had we ended up with a 2 kilowatt machine. We call it the high reliability for remote applications. So Northern Power's kind of specialized all these years going for very hard to get to market. We're talking about mountaintops, a telecommunications site. They have to helicopter in diesel fuel to charge batteries to run the equipment, and so a wind turbine was a great mix. I will quibble just a little bit with something you said, Ray. Jay. Right now, there's 200 megawatts of wind power, and I don't know whether maybe it's about the same as solar, but the capacity factor for wind is on the order of twice what it is. So for solar, so if you're looking at kilowatt hours, you got to be a little bit careful. But the small wind market got initial boost in the 1980s. President Carter had a tax credit program, and at that time we were also designing at Rocky Flats, Colorado, 8 kilowatt machines for residential and so on. But when the tax credits went away, then that market went away for quite a few years. And again, they're hard markets in general, but in Hawaii, we want to talk about Hawaii, we don't have a lot of rural areas like you would say in Nebraska and Iowa and so on. And those states were already used to having small wind turbines around. Remember the old fan water pumpers on farms, and then there was small electric.
Symbol of the American farm.
Yeah, and actually North Wind originally went around collecting some of the old Jacobs machines, turned them from DC into AC, and in the early 80s, the government sponsored a program to put a couple machines around various states and just interconnect them. We had a couple come here into Hawaii. One was at Kaha Ranch, another one on Molokai. But later on, when I heard about Paniolo, I'm trying to remember his name. It was last name was Stevens. He got laid off from Molokai Ranch, and he was thinking he'd go back to Big Island where he was born and raised. And he thought he wanted to get a business to put in small wind turbines, and I said at the time, I don't think I could imagine any tougher business right now in the renewable business to try to do something like that, because you got to go out and knock on a lot of doors, and people are not familiar with the product. And still, until very recently, what was holding wind turbines back, in my estimation, is whether we're good quality products. Now, actually, just in the last several years, again back at NREL, there's been a small wind certification council that helped foster standards for small wind, and I actually was involved in that process. Here's a list of some of the turbines that have been already certified or are in the process, and so that gives a consumer a good idea whether a particular turbine may be a good deal. So we have one of the companies that sticks out is Berge. There's a few of those on the Big Island around under.
That's a competitor of Northern Power
Well,
Systems?
no, they do
No.
like a 10 kilowatt.
Wait, let
okay.
him talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot. You made a lot of really good comments there. I could comment on some of those statements as well. Yeah, Northern Power, we started as mentioned back in the 70s, and have a great story about how we're one of the second oldest members of the AWEA program, AWEA, the trade industry. But anyway, the HR3, HR2 machine, we built that for 20 years, and then it became very uncompetitive for us in the marketplace, and lots of other turbines, like for example the Berge, a fantastic machine. That machine owns the residential industry, as far as I'm concerned, worldwide. It's a beautiful machine, works very well. You know, the Berge and Northern, we had machines on Hawaii 20 years ago, and I'm sure a lot of them are still operational.
Well, let's talk about pros and cons for a minute. You know, I mean, in terms of the trying to understand in Hawaii anyway, and maybe this is elsewhere, and in more urban settings, that people don't like turbines on their homes. I mean, they may like it, but the guy next door, he doesn't like it, and they treat it as a nuisance, and they complain bitterly. And I'm not even sure if it's permitted or what. You have to get a permit. I don't know.
Well, yeah, of course.
But you know, the problem is that a lot of people aren't going to get into an argument with their neighbor or get into a struggle over the permitting if they can just put PV on the roof and achieve the same thing, maybe even for less money. I don't know. I'd be interested in your thoughts about whether it's the same money or less money or more money. The other elements that fall in here on the pro and con is that wind has a larger period of operating time during the 24-hour day, which is an undeniable benefit.
Well,
and the third thing I want to throw in the hopper is that wind has moving parts, and moving parts require lubrication, they require maintenance, and once in a while they fail. And I'm wondering if what you say when people ask you what is the useful life of this device. Anyway, those are the things that come to mind that may affect the acceptance by the public of wind. See, my underlying question, I pose it to both of you, is how come we can't do small wind? I happen to like wind. I think it's metaphysical. Wind it's got poetry about it, and I like the sound of wind. A lot of people hate that, but I like the sound of it. And so I want to know why we don't have small wind here in Hawaii. You want to go first, Warren?
You threw out a lot to chew on. First, let's talk a little bit about our resources. And everybody knows when the sun's up and when it's down. It doesn't work so good at night. Wind can be any time of the day, and then it depends.
It tends to go down at night, though, usually.
Yeah. But it depends on what your objective is. Okay? So if you're just trying to save on your utility bill, what do you do first? Energy efficiency. Right? Then if you're looking to offset all your load, and you can do that, energy efficiency, I have a solar hot water collector, which we have well over 100,000, and there's like 40,000 PVs now, so we got to keep remembering, don't forget about solar hot water. And then you look at, well, maybe I'll get an on-site generator, and that could be a PV or it could be a small wind turbine. And because we're so congested here, most urban areas you tend not to see them. It's more the exception. So one of the other groups in this playing field is the Distributed Wind Energy Association, which is an offshoot of AWEA, the American Wind Energy Association. And they came up with a model wind zoning ordinance. So in other words, here's an industry perspective with other people contributing on where would you want to do this and what kind of rules you might have, because right now we don't have these kinds of ordinances in place. And so simply then over time it's sort of evolved that if you had a big enough lot, there may be a setback requirement so that if the wind turbine tower happened to fall over, it'd still fall on your property. See, so if you want a wind turbine up 60 feet or so, which you normally would for a small 10 kilowatts and so on, and higher for on 100. Well, that kind of limits where you can go, right? And then you'd have to meet noise requirements and all that. So again, if you're then trying,
you don't have to repeat it.
No, I was going to make
I
another.
want to give both of you
Yeah.
an even chance
Okay.
on this. So, Trevor, what are your thoughts on this whole thing about why can't we get small wind to be more popular here in Hawaii?
Well, I would say in general, Warren is absolutely correct. The problem that there's no standardized zoning allowances or permits or standards nationally is one of the biggest holdbacks to residential to distributed wind to all wind programs. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can't put wind everywhere. It's not for everywhere. There's no silver bullet. We got to do wind. We got to do PV. We got to do efficiency. We got to do it all. So you got to have the right site. It's all about the site. And PV is so much easier, and the costs have come down that much more. That's why it's going up so quickly, and that's fantastic. But again, as Warren indicated, wind oftentimes can have twice the capacity factor of PV in residential or commercial applications, and that's hard to turn away and not consider that higher effectively, higher efficient design system.
Yeah, that's really important.
More producing.
But it sounds like to me that this problem wouldn't be a problem if people would not complain about their neighbor putting a structure on the property, and would not be a problem if the permitting process wouldn't be a big delay, because in fact, from a mechanical point of view, a useful life point of view, a useful around the clock point of view, wind seems to actually work better. And I guess I would ask you guys, A, whether you agree with me, and B, is how are we going to get there?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with what you just said. Again, I go back to objectives. I'll give you an example here. It's on the island of Maui. A gentleman wanted to be totally off the grid. So guess what? He's got some PV. Guess what? He's also got some wind. Guess what? He's got a battery. Guess what? He's got a backup diesel generator, which he runs on biodiesel. So he's totally off the grid.
Well, he spent a lot of money already.
And sustained. Well, he did, because he did this about maybe 10 years ago. So again, what's your objective? And I think when residential customer, consumer, he's looking, we kind of talked about that. And then if you go up into Northern Power's sweet spot, they're generally going to try to offset somebody's load, and that's going to save them a lot of money. So as I understand, the 2 turbines of his that we have on the Big Island, that's what they are. They're in a net metering agreement. But so some of the issues in PV and wind are going to start to come in together because of interconnection issues. So if you get too much distributed generation on one island, the utility's going to have to do a study. And then to make a quick distinction on the economics here, there's a lot of people making PV, so the costs have come down. But it's still, to me, somewhat of a buyer beware. But even more so for small wind, because there are not as many small manufacturers making a lot of products, so they're still relatively expensive. And that'll hopefully change over time. And let me stop
Okay, well,
there
I
and see
think
what
Trevor probably wants to respond to that. But Trevor, can I take a moment to have a break here, and then we'll come back and you can respond to what Warren says. Most people do respond to what Warren says. I mean that in the nicest possible way. Okay, this is Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We have Trevor Atkinson, who joins us from Stowe, Vermont by Skype audio. We're talking about small wind in Hawaii. Warren Bollmeyer is here from the Hawaii Renewable Energy Alliance. We'll be right back after this short break.
Aloha. Hi, my name is Dr. Rafi.
Trevor, you're on next.
Every week, I'm right
I'd
here
like
at
to
Think Tank
pose
Hawaii,
to you both
8 p.m. on
the
Mondays.
question of why can't
My show
we
is Bards' Bio
find the
Briefings.
technology to make
What do we do
wind,
here? Well, we watch sperm
lower to the
swim. We see if they catch
no wind
everybody.
resource to the ground.
We check out the
There's no
latest
wind resource to
biosimilars.
the ground.
You know, the
Remember,
kind
the wind can't go
that,
into the
what was
ground.
his name? The guy with the
That's a good
bicycle?
one.
I didn't bring that up.
Sorry.
I guess we forgot
There's
his
no
name,
wind
but he was
resource at the
taking
ground.
EPO.
You gotta get up where there's
and
good,
other
clean
human
air.
growth
I mean,
factors.
it's
We'll be
just the way it
talking
is.
about human growth factors.
Ian, I
Wanna know where
got a
to get
crackle
some?
on my headset. Do you know what
Maybe
that
I'll
is?
tell. Anyway, you can catch me,
Yeah, I
as
got
I
it.
said,
Just
every
not
week
purple.
right here,
Might have been me.
Monday, 3
Yeah, I mean,
p.m.
then there was the
Think
argument
Tech
about
Hawaii.
the vertical
Dr.
axis
Rafi.
machines,
You
and
can
we
also
went through
find me
that
on Twitter,
again when I was in the
BioInfo
R&D phase.
Medical.
Yeah, it doesn't
Or
need a tail.
you
but
can
then
catch
it's more
me
turbulent,
on
and
Facebook,
it can't be
Dr.
way up in the
Rafael
air, so
Borza.
you gotta have these
I'll be happy
wires
to
guided
converse with
down.
you.
Eh,
Aloha.
I got the latest
We're
design.
back.
Okay.
We're live. We're here. We're Think Tech. On Wednesday, Hawaii, the state of clean energy. We're talking about small wind in Hawaii with Trevor Atkinson, who joins us by Skype audio from Stowe, Vermont, and Warren Bollmeyer, who's right here in downtown Honolulu in Pioneer Plaza, the core of downtown Honolulu. We're talking about small wind, and I guess one question I posed, and I got a real reaction from Trevor on it, is why don't we just build them lower to the ground? Remember, Hickam Air Force Base tried some of these things, and they were turbines rather than big blades, and they were way lower to the ground than the
Well, they're
normal big blades,
vertical axis machines, yeah.
if that's what they call them.
Yeah.
And I think they took them out for some reason.
Yeah, they probably didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your comment? I mean, is there technology in the pipeline here, Trevor, that would bring it? I don't mean right at the ground, but lower down so that the neighbors wouldn't complain.
No, I mean, it all depends on the site. I'm sure there are some sites that have a decent wind resource low to the ground, whatever low to the ground means. But in general, you want to get up in the air. You want to get a nice, clean, laminar flow of air. You want to get a reliable source of energy. There's, dollars blowing by every piece of property in this country every day. We might as well collect it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But the problem is that Hawaii, anyway, is in many places it's urban. It's urban residential. Hillside's covered with houses, and it may not be urban in the sense of New York City with canyons, although canyons are coming soon, actually.
Right.
Problem is that when you have residential like that, nobody really wants 60-foot structures on the back. Not because they'll fall over, but because they consider it a blight to the eye.
Yeah.
Right.
And on the other hand, solar, it's so easy. You put it up there, you can hardly see it. So
Right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
that's just it. You can't put wind everywhere. I mean, it's not for everywhere. As much as I'd like to see it in one in everybody's backyard, it just doesn't always make sense.
So the question I put to you, maybe I put to you both, is where then, at least in the Hawaii landscape, do you put the wind? And we're talking small wind. I mean, that's the nature of the show. So where does it fit in
Farms,
the panoply
ranches.
of possibilities?
Yeah.
You know,
Farms, ranches. Yeah.
Farms, ranches,
People with
suburban
big
homes, possibly.
Let me make one comment. There are some opportunities for urban areas, and just like there's building what we call building integrated PV, there's also the possibility of building integrated wind, and particularly new buildings. Some of the ones that are being designed, and particularly the tall ones, they're actually designing them to take advantage of the heights and the creation of higher wind speeds. And we already have a bunch of small little wind turbines on yachts, battery chargers, so they're close to the ground. And then when they're out sailing around, there's usually some wind. And then there's another possibility, and I'm seeing a couple of them starting to sprout up, and those would be some wind turbines on building tops. But you
know what
you
that
need to
reminds
get it.
me of? There's a company called Natural Power Systems,
Yeah, that was another.
and they make the wind turbines, and they are turbines, part of the architecture of the building.
Right.
Like the cornices of the buildings of a skyscraper building
Right.
become wind turbines.
Yeah.
I mean, that wouldn't bother anybody because it's not sticking out.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's probably not going to be a large impact. I think maybe what might be better to discuss for some of the rest of our time here is what's really holding back small wind, because there are guys trying to do it, and so
Yeah.
there's definitely some difficulties in permitting. It used to take at least a year just to get a building permit to do on these. Now I understand it's maybe 2 or 3 months, so that's good. But then if you have to go in as part of that to get a variance because you exceed the current heights, that's where a model zoning zoning ordinance might be a help. And I think it's just education. What I sense, and I've heard this from other members in the community of wind, that the people are aware of all the problems with big systems, wind farms, and what those guys have to go through to develop projects. And it's kind of coming down to like they're thinking the same way about the small projects. So the wind turbines, big ones, they probably have to do environmental impact statements, or maybe even habitat conservation plan, and if they're in sensitive area. Well, these are all deal killers for smaller projects. So with the zoning ordinance, then you could see, well, if this would be a big help to just the consumers, like, well, if I got a certain size piece of property, I could put up a turbine up so high, and then you can see if it makes economic sense. And let me just stop there and say, maybe after this we could talk a little bit about the net costs of all these things to the general consumer, because if you got, I don't know whether you want to get into that about net energy metering, but I'll offer it as a topic.
Let's get Trevor to weigh in. I mean, what is the best penetration, if you will, of a wind in a place like Hawaii, which is sometimes rural but often, sort of urban? Where do you put it? How do you put it? And how do you make it work for the user?
Well, I mean, it kind of like Warren mentioned. It all kind of depends what your goals are. If you want to just add a small component of wind to your home, yeah, you could connect 2 or 3 small micro wind turbines that are made for yachts for battery charging onto the home, and connect them to the grid, and provide a negative load or positive energy generated on site for sure. But to really make an impact in a home, you need a 5 or 10 or 15 kilowatt machine. And as indicated, that's a 60, 70, 80-foot tower. You have to take into consideration fall zones, safety zones, setbacks, acoustics, shadow flicker. I mean, there's all kinds of different concerns. So
don't forget the birds.
Don't forget the birds, But hey, you know what? Windows and cars kill more birds than wind turbines, and that is a proven fact.
And cats, don't forget cats.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, we got special situations here. It's like it's virtually impossible at this point to put a wind turbine up on Kauai, but because of the North Shearwater situation there. The other thing I want to point out.
What about offshore?
Yeah, well.
What about offshore?
Yeah, no, that's it.
I mean, I could build you a huge facility offshore with 50 wind turbines and generate an enormous amount of energy.
The seabirds come in. They come in the early morning. And what happened in the Kauai, they're running in utility lines, and so the utilities had to modify what they do. But then as they're zooming out to go get food, if there's wind turbines out there, then that's going to be another gauntlet, to fly through. But one thing I want to point out before I forget is that Hawaii, for a number of reasons, is really special. And when it comes to wind, here's the deal. Normally, people don't live in windy areas. And because it's generally just not
pleasant.
No, it's not pleasant. But you talk, if you go to Hawaii, it's like a wind tunnel up there, and so there's other benefits.
Okay, well that goes to the title question.
So that's why
I think what I hear you saying, I don't know if you agree, Trevor, is that small wind really isn't going to work in Hawaii. I mean, in large parts, not going to work.
No, we're not saying that.
And big wind, is a
that.
much more useful approach. No.
No, we're just saying
they both have their places.
Yeah. So the other concept here is customer choice. Now, some people prefer PV because they just don't like to hear a little bit of whirring sound that you get from a wind turbine, or they don't like, we're wind geeks, okay? So when we look at wind turbines, we think of them as dynamic sculpture as opposed to somebody that thinks
let's hear from Trevor on this.
Ugly,
Absolutely. I totally agree. But then again, I don't want to have a wind turbine attached to my house, because that's going to shake the house and make it hard to sleep. But I keep saying there is a place for wind and there isn't a place, and you got to find the right balance.
Well, I think what I think Warren said a minute ago, it really appeals to me, or maybe you said it, Trevor. It's the little ones, the little turbines that replenish a battery, and so the battery is always there, and the 24/7, the wind is replenishing it, and so then you have a meaningful thing. And since they're small turbines, they're not as offensive to people as a large turbine or high turbine would be. Maybe there's a solution. If somebody could come up with a product like that, I think there might be a market for it.
Well, I think the products are already here in general. I think after
there's all kinds of products out there.
37 years now, I've been working on
It
this.
sounds like
we have, like technology that works. So
Well, Trevor, do you have a product like that?
We don't have a small house mount product, but we have a full-blown 100-foot wind turbine product. We've been building it for decades.
Right.
We also, we've also built a little 3 kilowatt wind product for 20 years that Warren mentioned at the beginning of the show. And I know we had multiple units on Hawaii back in the 80s. And some of them may still be running, I don't know. But again, ranches, farms, residential areas that aren't highly congested, especially if you're on the coast where you get lots of nice offshore breeze, or up in the mountains where you can take effect of some of the thermal considerations that drive the wind forces. I mean, the wind can be phenomenally affordable and effective in many spots, and there's some spots where it just doesn't work. So you have to look at every site by site and make the right choice. And of course, the neighbors, their opinions do count. You got to keep your neighbors and do the right thing for the planet.
Okay, somebody wanted to talk about price now. We have a few minutes left to do that. So you said that wind was twice as productive.
It can
I'm
be.
not sure what that
It
means.
can be. Yeah.
Can be.
Especially in Hawaii.
Does that mean productive for a dollar spent, or productive for a foot of land used? What does it mean?
Well, it translates to a lower effective cost of energy, yes.
Dollar spent.
Yeah.
Okay.
How much
Cents per
energy
kilowatt
you
hour.
get based on how much you spent?
Right.
Okay, so what are we talking about? And if I don't know what this is a good price, but if I have a fair to middling size house, it's going to cost me $40,000 to put PV all over it, and and maybe another 10 or 20 to put some batteries there, and so I'm talking $50,000-$60,000 to outfit my house with PV and batteries and handle it. And then I have no assurance of interconnection, but at least I have assurance of having maximum use of what I spent. Okay, compare that with wind. What's the comparable installation for wind? Trevor?
Well, I won't even use the numbers for my product, because my product is an industrial unit that'll power 20 to 30 homes, so it's kind of out of the scale for this topic. But the typical 10 kilowatt Berge machine, that's typically, as far as I understand, somewhere in the $70,000 to $80,000, maybe $90,000. And that's a 10 kilowatt machine, and in a decent wind resource, I'm sure that would outproduce your $40,000 PV array. You don't really need to look at. You shouldn't always look at what the upfront cost is, because there's all kinds of financing options available now, and you can spread out your payments and make it easy. What you really want to do, like Warren said, is look at the lifetime overall cost of energy, and take into account the capacity factor of the system and how you get the best payback. And there's 3 legs to the wind payback analysis. There's wind speed, there's your utility costs, and what do you have for incentives and grants. So in Hawaii, you have phenomenal wind speeds. You have probably the second or highest utility cost for electricity. And I think there's even some type of incentive program over there, not to mention the 30% federal tax credit you can get. So with all those different factors, I believe it would be hard to find sites in Hawaii that weren't cost effective.
Yeah, I agree with that. But Jay, to more specifically answer your question, I think a few years ago when we were looking at the feed-in tariff in the DACA, we were trying to figure out what the feed-in tariff rate should be for various technologies. And PV had already come down quite a bit, and it started to look to me like the install cost per watt or kW was getting pretty close. But then if we but that translates to a bigger benefit for wind because it's maybe twice as efficient, right? So now the PV costs have come down such that it's becoming more, in my mind, a matter of the site, and I'm saying a little bit more about the site here, and the customer choice, and what his objectives are. Now, if we compare all of the various renewable technologies, probably the one that's most site-specific in my mind would say be geothermal, right? So there's only a few places we know in Hawaii, and we have it though, see, because they have it in California, but they don't have it in
Not
Vermont.
like us, yeah.
Now they got a bunch of biomass there. We got a bunch of biomass here, so that can work. And then wind is fairly well known now because a lot of wind mapping that is done, and you don't necessarily have to go up and measure the wind for a year like you used to have to, and the same thing with solar. So then it becomes to, like with PV, ideally you want to have the PV panels facing south, right? But every time I drive around here, I see
they're all
PV panels
directions.
are, right, okay,
And
so
they tell you that it doesn't matter.
see, so then it's like the same. I've also seen a small wind turbine, which I won't name, on Kauai, and it was kind of like in a hole, and it was only about 20 feet off the ground. Now, how well do you think that?
Not very well.
Okay, so the farmer, the rancher, he's gonna now. Well, Parker Ranch already put in that's another example of a hybrid system.
Yeah, we want to get him on the show.
They
Dutch.
had, and they had Bergies and they had PV and a battery. So
He's off grid.
Yeah, and
The microgrid, yeah.
Yeah, and then
Nice.
also we want to let the good old entrepreneurship and enterprise work here. In other words, you have guys that
I wanted
are
to get to that. I wanted to get to that very point. We have only a couple of minutes left. But if I had an acre, okay, in a windy place,
right.
and I wanted to do feed-in tariff, I mean, assuming that's still a valid option.
Not at this point,
Sometimes it, I don't think it's going to actually be, but let's assume that we had feed-in tariff and I could actually make a deal to sell my power back, and there wouldn't be any substantial curtailment. Is it better for me to go out and buy a whole bunch of wind turbines, put them on that acre, or is it better for me to go out and buy? I'm in a commercial business of selling power now.
Yeah.
It's an investment. Call it a retirement investment. I want to spend, your number, Trevor, $80,000, and put a whole bunch of them in, and I want to clip my coupons. Okay, which is going to be the better deal, assuming a feed-in tariff, wind or PV?
So, but you're talking about a homeowner now, or you want to
I'm
make
talking about an investor.
you want to be a power production facility.
I want to power. Yes.
Okay, good. Let me just mention first, one of my buddies in the wind business put up a Bergie in Vermont, and he had about at least an acre, and it was about a ways back from his house, up on an 80-foot tower, whatnot. Other houses similar around, he didn't have any real problem doing that. See, so that's a good application.
Okay, which way to go, Trevor?
Yeah.
Would you advocate for wind, or would you allow for PV in a case like that?
It varies. It depends on two factors. One, what is the wind resource at the site, and are the two feed-in tariffs the same rate? Because as we've all agreed, solar prices have come way down, and wind prices have come down, but not as fast as solar prices. So you got to do the cost analysis. I would say if it was a windy site, and I would go with the wind, because in most cases in Hawaii, the wind overproduces the solar by a capacity factor of 2.
Yeah. Okay, I got an answer for you.
Go ahead.
Both. You put the
love it.
PV
Brilliant.
in,
That's
and you put the
brilliant.
wind turbines up, and they're
Sure.
underneath the.
It's like the cattle
PVs
grazing under the PV.
Oh yeah,
put them both on
no,
there.
you put the PV high enough so that you can have the
great idea.
sheep underneath.
Warren, you are something.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
That's
what
the
do
best
you do?
solution.
You put the turbines up. You can put them as high as you want, assume that you'll get a permit, and you put the PV down, and then you have cattle
And then you
under the
should-
PV.
Okay, but then you got to negotiate a contract with HECO on that. We could make that a subject for discussion at some other time.
Yeah, that's another discussion.
Yeah.
Well, Trevor, I'm left with the notion that there is a place for small wind.
There
and
is.
that in many ways it's technically better. And it's a matter of getting by the NIMBY process and the permitting
Absolutely.
process. And if we could do that, then you know, there would be a place for it. And I think Warren's last comment is really very profound, and that is let's have them both. Let's have them both in the same place.
Yeah,
combination.
I got
We're almost
enough.
out of time. In fact, we are out of time, Warren.
Well, I got another
So
one
take
for you.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Be
The true
luxurious.
hybrid system.
Okay, everybody knows what NIMBY is, right? We need to make it a PIMBY. That's please in my backyard. Okay.
Okay. And why don't you close, Trevor? What would you say to our audience here at 4:52?
I would say, have a good evening and good night from Stowe, Vermont.
That's Trevor Atkinson, Northern Power Systems from Stowe, Vermont, by Skype audio, and Warren Bollmeyer right here in the downtown core of downtown here at the Think Tech Studios. Thank you both, gentlemen, very much.
Grazie.
Grazie, he says.
Prego.